$34 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment. $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan. $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests, while sending the bare minimum to the American people.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Hamill. Welcome to In Focus. The possibility of a presidential veto on the COVID-19 relief package packed with pork. President Trump is urging Congress to cut pet projects from the nearly $1 trillion stimulus bill. He's also urging lawmakers to increase the $600 payment to most Americans to at least $2,000 per couple. That part of the plan caught the attention of the squad. Radical Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez taking to Twitter backing the idea, saying, "Let's do it." Rashida Tlaib and I already co-wrote the COVID amendment for $2,000 checks, so it's ready to go. Glad to see the president is willing to support our legislation. We can pass $2,000 checks this week if the Senate GOP agrees to stand down. Meanwhile, on the election corruption front, President Trump isn't getting any traction with Attorney General William Barr.
If I thought a special counsel at this stage was the right tool and was appropriate, I would name one, but I haven't, and I'm not going to.
Attorney General William Barr torpedoed several of President Trump's political priorities Monday, saying there is no need to investigate the president's claims of election fraud or name a special counsel to investigate President-elect Joe Biden's son Hunter.
I think to the extent that there's an investigation, I think that it's being handled responsibly and professionally.
In the meantime, members of the House Freedom Caucus are discussing the process for objecting to electoral votes during a joint session of Congress presided over by Vice President Mike Pence. Join me now from Rock Hill, South Carolina, representing South Carolina's 5th Congressional District, Congressman Ralph Norman. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. Congressman, I wanted to find out how you voted on the COVID-19 relief bill. Americans are pretty furious. A lot of them are pretty furious out there with the idea that they're just going to get a $600 check when they've been shut down for so many months.
Well, they should be furious, Stephanie, and I voted against the bill. The NDAA and this one. This was easy. I mean, look at the pork. It would make a pork farmer blush for all the money that's going to other countries, as the president said. $1,800 paid to illegal aliens. The millions going to the Smithsonian. The Egypt getting $1.3 billion to buy military aircraft and other machinery from Russia, of all places. So, no, this was not a hard decision to make. 53 of us voted against it, and we're going to object to the UC as far as the unanimous consent tomorrow to increase it to 2 million without offsets. You've got to have this pork out of here. Now's not the time, with particularly what this country's gone through with the COVID virus.
Yeah, it's such a slap in the face to Americans that lawmakers tried to wedge in money for other countries when Americans at home are struggling, and it's not their fault that they're struggling. They've been shut down. And again, it's not that they're just shut down. I mean, they see all the arbitrary rules. They don't understand why their particular businesses are being targeted. And so it just really just doesn't make any sense. And then also the amount of time that you guys were given to look through this bill, almost 6,000 pages, yet no one really had time to read it. So when I first heard that there was a deal on the COVID-19 relief, I was like, oh, that's great. $600, not very much. I'm not calling it crumbs like Nancy Pelosi called the tax credits crumbs. This is different. This is different than tax credits. This is about giving Americans relief because they've been shut down.
Stephanie, to be given a 6,000 page document and asked to read it within a matter of hours is an insult in and of itself. I come from the business arena. You don't sign contracts you don't read. And for her to even do this, and look at the timing, right before Christmas. I mean, really? So this was not a hard one. I think there are a lot of congressmen now who are probably sorry that they signed it. But that goes with just not reading it. And I'm never going to sign anything that you can't read. And what's more egregious, look at some of the things that are in there that have already been mentioned. But $25 million to study carp, Asian carp, $2 million to see the effects of downed trees. Somebody needs to explain this. And you need to follow the money trail on this because somebody's getting big paychecks and it's not Americans.
Well, it's also interesting, too, that there was money in there for border security, border walls in other countries. Yet these are the same people who tell us it's racist to want border security in America. Yet we'll do that for other countries.
Exactly. And it's an insult for them to call us that. And I think we've got to get used to, we're going to be called that regardless, but it's time to fight. This one, I guess the only shining light that the Americans will see is this is highway larceny of our money. We're the ones paying the taxes and then giving it to other countries when this country is hurting. Government is in the Democratic run states are telling the businesses to shut down. You can't operate a business as we can't exist without oxygen. You can't shut down. And to go in a restaurant and see the small numbers, the tables 6 feet apart, you can't make money. And it's time to go back to work. We're losing our freedom one step at a time.
Yeah. I went to the mall last night and they were only allowing 6 people in the store at a time. This was like a smaller store. The department stores, it's a free-for-all, but like the smaller stores, literally 6 people in at a time. It was wild. I waited in line for like 40 minutes. It's infuriating. So you were talking about the tables, and I'm just thinking of like everything else that's going on as well.
Yeah, and look at the stores that are boarded up because of the looting and the larceny that took place. And combine COVID on top of this, and then combine this bill with what the politicians voted to give away our money. No, it's unacceptable, and it's time for all Americans to do what we can to fight it and to expose it, and then hopefully it'll be amended and the pork will be out of it.
So is this just like a political move, or are these lawmakers playing politics? I guess like on both sides, because it wasn't just Democrats who wedged in their pet projects, also Republicans did too. And there's some Republicans who are cheering this COVID-19 relief bill, saying it's like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And obviously it's not. It's better than nothing. There are some good things in it. But at the end of the day, there's just so much nonsense in there that doesn't help Americans directly.
Here's what I compare it to, Stephanie. If we were told to take a vitamin that had some good things in the vitamin that made us healthy, but that yet had a lethal arsenic in it, would you take the pill? Would you take the vitamin? No, because overall it harms you. This bill not only harms Americans, it's stealing money that they should not be taking. It's not the politicians to spend. Let's take all the pork out. There's always been some pork. There's always been, things, but not to this extent, and not to the extent that this country is basically on its knees from the business standpoint in so many states.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of money. Money doesn't grow on trees, over $1 trillion. This is absolute insanity. And it puts President Trump in a bad spot. And a lot of these Democrats know exactly what they're doing. They know how this is all going to play out because the mainstream media doesn't report on the pork that's in the COVID-19 relief bill. They just say, oh, President Trump, he might veto this because he doesn't want to help the American people. And the Republicans who voted against it, they're terrible. They want you to suffer. And the Democrats know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, they do, but I think it's going to catch them on this one. Let them say that, and then let the American people see where their money is going. Let them be the judge, because this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is a American issue of highway robbery of tax dollars at a time when we can't afford it. Stephanie, we're $30 trillion in debt, and to add to this is just not right. And again, we're losing our freedom one vote at a time.
So what do you think President Trump should do? Obviously, some are calling on him to veto.
Stephanie, I hope he vetoes it. He's already mentioned he's going to veto the NDAA bill, but I hope he vetoes it. And let's go back to work. We haven't worked all year. I mean, since January, the COVID has put a stop to our meetings, although some of them have been by Skype. But this bill, the other thing your listeners need to know, did not go through the regular budgetary process. The first time I saw what was in it was when we got the 6,000 pages, and we just briefly read through it. But we should have started on this back in February, but they wanted to hold it out to the last minute. Christmas, people are wanting to get home. They have events planned with their families, and but this is bigger than this now. I think all of us, particularly the 53 that signed it, we'll come back to Washington at a minute's notice and go to work on it, because we can't have this. If this is allowed to continue, it's a preview of coming attractions in future budgets.
Your thoughts on the discussion about $2,000 direct payment to Americans, something suggested by President Trump. Obviously, I read in the introduction the tweet from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that she's totally behind that. I mean, the Democrats are totally behind any sort of spending.
They're behind any sort of spending, but they're not any offsets they're against. You notice she never said, let's come back up here and cut some of the things out of it.
Yeah.
That she was quiet on that. She's for spending money. But again, we don't have a piggy bank to go to. This is borrowed money. And the thought that we are giving this amount of money to other countries and to illegal aliens is completely a boondoggle, and it ought to be called out for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're fortunate to have people like you who aren't afraid of, speaking out for what's right. So we appreciate that. Now, President Trump met with some Republican allies, if you will, congressional allies at the White House to discuss the possibility of challenging the. Where do you stand on that?
I'm all in agreement. I will be there on January 6th along with Mo Brooks. We will have a senator to object. And of course, Mo, and I think we've got about 10 others, and it's growing. Just talked to Congressman Lance Gooden from Texas. He's a part of it. I'm going to urge people to get on board with this, because this election was not won fair and square. And we can back that up with the 4 states that were in question. And I will say this too, Stephanie, this isn't about Democrat, Republican. This is about fair elections. And the 4 states, before they did all the changes to their election laws, which was against the Constitution, this is a preview of coming attractions if we let it go. Now, we keep hearing that it's going to be, we're not going to be successful. Well, let's see how successful we're going to be. If we don't make the effort, we know we're not going to be successful. But I'm in total agreement. I will be there on the 6th, along with a growing number of other congressmen.
Yeah. And really quickly, I wanted to get your reaction to the recent Trump pardons. And President Trump granted a full pardon on Tuesday to George Papadopoulos. He was the former campaign aide. Do you think this was the right move? Absolutely.
I mean, these, along with General Flynn, it was the right thing to do at the right time. It's his prerogative. And what better time around Christmas time to do this? And I think that they've been vilified, and as well as a lot of others. This president has been treated so unfairly for 4 years, and look at the progress he's made. But he's right to do it, and I hope he has some others in mind that he can pardon, because it's not right what the Democrats are doing.
Yeah, looks like he's in the pardoning mood, if you will. And Congressman, really quickly, where will you be spending Christmas?
We are going to a farm. We've got 4-wheelers, we got bonfires, and we got barbecue. Come join us. You would love it.
That sounds amazing. Well, Congressman, we're going to leave it here. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.